So thank you for joining our November informational webinar, Abilities Work, helping students with unique abilities connect to employment opportunities. My name is Iris Neal. I am the Program Manager Outreach Coordinator at the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities. This webinar is being recorded. Our presenters today are Michelle Denard. Michelle is the President and CEO of CareerSource Florida Incorporated, the nonprofit public-private policy and investment board of business and government leaders charged with guiding workforce development for the state of Florida. Ms. Denard led the development of Florida's unified plan for implementing the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, the federal legislation that modernizes states' workforce systems through a market-driven approach to better serve businesses, workers, and job seekers. Through strong leadership and a collaborative spirit, she engaged workforce and education partners statewide to develop a plan that delivers customer-driven solutions for the 21st century and beyond. An attorney and a member of the Florida Bar, Ms. Denard has over 16 years of experience in workforce and economic development. Prior to joining CareerSource Florida, she served as the Director of Division of Strategic Business Development at the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. She previously served as the Deputy Director of the Governor's Office of Tourism, Trade, and Economic Development, providing legal counsel and managing legislative affairs. Additionally, Nilda Blanca, the Vice President, Service Delivery, CareerSource Central Florida, is here. Nelda has a keen understanding of workforce development and public policy, working with a variety of community and business partners during her 20-year workforce career. As Senior Director of Business Intelligence, she supports the implementation of an organizational excellence framework, analysis of business operations and services, and strategic planning and program development. Prior to joining CareerSource Central Florida in 2012, she was a regional manager for the for-profit training program and was responsible for youth services for several different Florida workforce areas. Handouts for today's webinar can be downloaded from the chat section, which can be accessed by clicking the chat icon, the speech bubble at the bottom of the Zoom window. Closed captioning can be accessed at the bottom of the Zoom screen. If you're having difficulty hearing the presentation, phone numbers that can be used to call and join the audio via phone while following the slides online will be posted in the chat window. At this time, we will begin our webinar, and I turn it over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation to be here today. I'm going to share my screen, so y'all bear with me. Great. So as was said, I'm Michelle Denard, President and CEO of CareerSource Florida, and I'm really honored to be joined by an outstanding colleague and partner and friend, Nilda Blanco from CareerSource Central Florida. You heard a little bit about Nilda, and we'll get to hear about her and her team's work a little bit later on in today's presentation. We're also going to hold some time at the end of our talk for questions and answers and discussion, and we really hope that we end this presentation today considering the possibilities about how you and your important roles and in support of your students and program success can explore ways to collaborate with Florida's workforce development system partners to help more Floridians connect to meaningful employment and career pathways. For some of you, but hopefully not all of you, today's session may be your first introduction to the CareerSource Florida network. I am really fortunate to be a leader of the small but mighty professional team that supports CareerSource Florida, the state's workforce policy and investment board that leads our network. CareerSource Florida is our state's principal workforce policy organization. The business-led board is appointed by the governor and represents a cross-section of stakeholders charged with helping to guide the state board's, the state's talent development ecosystem, of which you all are a part too. Here you see our vision and mission both are big. We do believe that Florida can be and should be the global leader for talent, but to be the global leader, we must also be a national leader. Our state, the third largest in the nation, is a global economic powerhouse. And as our great friend and partner, Mark Wilson, President and CEO of the Florida Chamber, often says, Florida is currently the 15th largest economy in the world, with a goal of being the 10th largest by 2030. And of course, we can't get there without a nationally and globally leading workforce. And that means ensuring everyone who wants to work, including Floridians with disabilities or unique abilities, have an opportunity to do so with the right education, the right skills, the right training and support to thrive. It's our mission that I believe links our work to yours as important contributors to higher education throughout Florida post-secondary comprehensive training programs. We are focused on connecting job seekers and employers to help Floridians achieve self-sufficiency and access to good jobs and careers, and to help job seekers, workers, and businesses all achieve economic prosperity. You're focused on helping Florida students, particularly those with intellectual and developmental disabilities, pursue and attain their post-secondary education goals, putting them on a stronger path to employment. Our systems goal, taken from the Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which enables and funds our public workforce development system, focuses on all the things I just mentioned that drive our vision and mission. And it also contemplates our shared work to support student success as today's learners transition into the workforce to become tomorrow's earners, then on a path to economic mobility and prosperity. While our state board and professional team that supports it in developing workforce strategies and policies investment, we work closely with our network partners, the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, and the foundation and the core of our network, Florida's 24 local workforce development boards. In fact, about 85% of the federal funding that Florida receives for our workforce development system flows directly to local communities through the leadership of our local workforce development board, which are also business-led to address local and regional employment training and hiring needs. You see the list here, and if you don't already have a connection to the local workforce development board in your community, we'll hope you take the opportunity to reach out and explore how you can work together to help your students connect to prepaid employment training resources and to support their efforts to achieve independent living and post-secondary education credentials and employment. Or reach out to me. I'm always happy to facilitate an introduction if you want to work better with your local workforce development board. I mentioned briefly the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, that is the federal policy cornerstone of our inclusive workforce development efforts. Often referred to as WIOA, the act compels our network to work with a set of core partners, including the Florida Department of Education's Division of Vocational Rehabilitation and the Division of Line Services. Both have leader representatives on the State Workforce Development Board, which is made up of private sector and public sector leaders to drive state workforce policy decisions. WIOA establishes priorities for assisting individuals with barriers to employment or opportunity groups that are often underserved or underrepresented, including people with disabilities, to help them gain education, skills, and employment that can lead to economic self-sufficiency, mobility, and prosperity. I mentioned the important work that happens locally on the workforce development front. Florida's 24 local workforce development boards and the nearly 100 career centers they oversee provide a number of quality services and access to resources such as training, scholarships, and supportive services to job seekers. Career centers also offer customized support to Floridians who self-identify as having a disability. For example, career centers are staffed by disability services specialists who are knowledgeable about local programs and services designed to assist Floridians with disabilities with their skills development and employment needs. More than half of the state workforce or local workforce development boards offer the Ticket to Work program, which is available to job seekers who receive supplemental security income and or Social Security disability insurance, and are seeking to become economically self-sufficient through employment. Participants in Ticket to Work receive employment services such as career and financial counseling, resume assistance, access to job readiness workshops, and job referrals. And of course, also driving our network's efforts are the needs of Florida's job creators, our employers. The network delivers high-quality businesses services to Florida employers, such as recruitment, hiring, and training needs. And I touched on the priority for assisting individuals with disabilities with employment and careers. And now I am delighted to invite Nilda, who is a wonderfully talented and committed local workforce leader in our network, to introduce herself and talk a little bit about the work of her organization and her team in Central Florida that's making a profound difference in the lives of many Floridians.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having us here today. And excited to talk to you about our network. As Michelle said, that we have 24 local workforce development boards. Although we may offer something slightly different, we're all really focused on making sure that residents in Florida have the skills they need and the services they need to either engage in new skills, upskill, or figure out what it is they want to do. And as we talk about services to those with unique abilities, you know, all of our centers do have a navigator, as Michelle said, who could support those individuals access the services they need. We also support the Ticket to Work program as an employment network provider. I think probably some of you on the call are probably also employment network provider partners. And we really work with other ENs to make sure that we can partner on job search assistance, job referrals, connections to employers, which is really important in this market. I think one of the questions I get quite often is, how do employers really want to engage with potential talent? And I think one of the big things that all of us, the network, are hoping to work with our employer partners to do is to really figure out what that looks like. Employers are very interested in diversifying their talent pools, but not quite sure how to do it. We have a lot of employers who are interested in offering on-the-job training opportunities or internships or work experiences, but are not quite sure what that means. So here in Central Florida, those are a couple of things that we're really focusing in on and how we can support our employers to really provide these work-based learning opportunities. And we do that by making sure that they have business consultants that they can work with to identify what those opportunities are. And we have career consultants who work with our career seekers to make sure they're prepared for those work experiences, but also are supported through that experience. So as they learn those new skills and they come up against some of the challenges we may have at work or the things we have to think about work, they have someone who's in their corner to help them through that thinking and help them continue to stay involved in work and enjoy their new skills. I think one of the big benefits that we're really talking with our employer partners about is really the benefit of having diversified talent that really could bring a different perspective to their work. And so as we talk with employers about the opportunity to work with individuals with unique abilities, that it's something that we're also really focused on. Interestingly, in our region, actually, when I look at unemployment rates for those with disabilities across the country, when we're looking at 16 to 19-year-olds, those with disability, their unemployment rates are almost 25% as compared to other populations where there are unemployment rates, especially here in Florida, we're looking at a 2.5% unemployment rate. So our network is really wanting to focus and partner with organizations like all of you on the call to see how we can better align our resources and our efforts to ensure that we can provide great experiences. I think, like Michelle said, we have an opportunity to provide training scholarships for those individuals who are interested in either short-term training opportunities or rapid credentialing opportunities. We also partner on different pilot programs to help those individuals who are interested in degree-bearing programs. So the network has a lot of different resources to partner to really begin to help our Floridians really get the skills they need to move forward, and ultimately how they can how should I say this? Decrease their dependency on benefits, because in the long run, if we're able to have the mirror or match their benefits with wages, they'll actually be more self-sufficient and more independent. So really looking at the strategies of work to really engage our young people and our other individuals with disabilities in great work opportunities. So thank you, Michelle, for inviting me. I hope you've been able to give you a little bit of insight of our network and what we're able to do. And like Michelle said, if anyone is interested in finding out more, we definitely want to make sure that we can connect after this webinar. So Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Nilda, and thanks for joining me today and for sharing a really valuable perspective from the front lines of our important work and highlighting the opportunities for partnership. There we go. And partnership is really at the center of what we all are here to do together. And all of the entities you see here on the slide are familiar to all of us as contributors to our work and the broader workforce development or talent development ecosystem. But for Florida to become the global leader for talent, we'll have to continue to build and strengthen our state's workforce through even greater collaboration. And that means continuing to align our strategies and resources, including exploring new and improved ways to partner and seeking opportunities to move from transactional to transformational talent development. Our state board and our entire network recognize that we're all stronger together and can deliver stronger services and outcomes for Floridians and businesses when we work together. And one of our governor's first executive actions was the signing of Executive Order 1931, charting a course for Florida to become #1 in the nation for workforce education by 2030. Since the very early days of his administration and continuing today, the governor's executive order has accelerated the collaboration between Florida's education and workforce systems. And this work continues with even more urgency and momentum as we continue to focus our economy and enjoy Florida's rapid growth. And another part of the governor's bold vision for workforce education is Florida's attainment goal that was included in the executive order, which calls for increasing the number of Floridians with high-value post-secondary credentials. Again, another component of the work that connects all of us. So there's no better time than right now to be having this conversation with record numbers of job openings, employer demand increasing, and the network's resources that we have to bring to the table. Again, I think Florida is poised for fantastic growth, and we want to be able to help any individual who's looking to go to work, looking to enhance their path to self-sufficiency and prosperity has that opportunity. So we're happy to take any questions or thoughts or comments from all of you. Or feel free to put anything in the chat, which I'm looking at now.
We do have one question from Lisa Friedman Chavez down in Miami-Dade. And it is about, do you have a list of the disability program navigators across the state? Or would people need to go to each CareerSource office website in order to find this information?
We do have a list, and we'd be happy to share that. Or if you want to tell us what specific area you're in or inquiring about, we're happy to connect you directly to that individual. So we can certainly share that as a supplement and send that out.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Because people are here from all over the state, that would be good to have as a handout, and then I can add that to the follow-up email.
Great.
What type of rapid credentialing do you offer?
It's a fairly wide variety, but our emphasis continues to be on the kinds of training that can provide an individual with a career pathway and high wage, high growth opportunities in their own areas. One of the great things about our local workforce development boards is that they are incredibly responsive to labor market information that's specific to the place where a job seeker lives. So that job seeker can rest assured if there are training opportunities available, it's going to lead to a job in their area. It's all centered on customer choice as well. While the training must be, again, market driven and presenting demand in the area, the job seeker gets to pick the training avenue that best works for them.
So this is Nilda. So for every workforce board on our websites, we all have our what we call our regional target occupation list. And on that list, you can go by board. I also put in the chat for you the DEO website, which is floridajobs.org. If you go to workforce development link, you can also find links to all of the workforce boards in the state, but we all have our regional targeted occupation list. And we work with training providers within our areas to identify all types of training. And so the credentialing or the rapid credentialing opportunities will vary by board, but like Michelle said, really steeped in things that are relevant, that are marketable, and that are what's the current demand of our employer partners in the region. And so, for example, in Central Florida, we have a lot of information technology. We have some cybersecurity, rapid credentialing. We also have some culinary. So it will really vary by your region, but the floridajobs.org website is a really great resource. And if you go to the top and you click workforce development, you can find under programs and resources, you can find information about all the workforce boards, different programs that we offer, and you can also find links to our workforce boards.
Okay. It's a very interesting website.
And I think one of the other great things as a local workforce board, and we have to thank our partners over at DE at the Department of Economic Opportunity, sometimes it's kind of nice to go into the economic insights for Florida. And so that's also another helpful tool as you're navigating your customers or your students or your clients that you work with and trying to figure out what's hot and what's not. If you go to the economic insights for Florida, the variety of economic data that might be helpful as far as what's happening in the market.
Nilda, would you be able to share some of the share the screen where that site is and some of the data? Let's see.
Okay. Nilda said she'd come speak, but not like get into technology. So I've got a couple screens here, so let me figure this out, and I will definitely be happy to do that. If I have
while she's doing that, Joanne had a question about how does, if a student is interested in working with you who are enrolled in our Florida Postsecondary Comprehensive Transition programs, what is the first thing they have to do to engage with you or your organization?
I think a great place to start would be the connection with the disability navigator and the local workforce development boards. And from there, the resources spider out to lots of different opportunities. So I think just making that first connection, and then the possibilities are really endless in the kinds of resources that can be tapped into.
Right on for it. So Iris, I am sharing Florida Insights. So what I like about this site is that you can quickly look at unemployment rates. You can click on to see what's happening by county, but there's the local unemployment statistics where you can dive into a specific area and kind of understand employment by county and place of residence. I think one of the other big places that I often come to is the employment projections. And with the employment projections, I can come here and I can pick my region. And so I'm just picking Central Florida. And this is an example of what a regional targeted occupation list might look like. And do you all see my screen? I made it as big as I could, but it kind of gives you the occupation. It gives you the growth. This column here, it'll tell you where we currently are, but then what are the number of positions? What's that growth? What's that percentage of growth? And the other thing that's nice about here is that it does give you the education that's required for some of these roles. And if I scroll further down, you can see what some of these pieces are. Like here, this role, which is a demonstrator of products, you need a high school diploma, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics doesn't give you an educational component here, but this column will tell you what's needed. An A would be an associate's degree, a B a bachelor's, some type of post-secondary credential would be PS, but you can dive into this by region and pick what you might want to look at as far as projections. You could also do crosswalks. So for those of you who are in a college sector where you're looking at SOC codes and SIP codes, you can do crosswalks from SOCs to SIPs to any other acronym you can imagine probably right here in this section, and you can get a crosswalk there. But I think one of the things that's really helpful, and there's some data, I mean, there are some videos on here to help you understand what you can find and look for, but also wages. So as you're working with employers potentially, and they want to know, you know, what are the current wages? What's the market wage? Am I paying a fair wage? Or if you're negotiating wages for some of your customers, this may be a good place to be able to do that. So if you're working with a business and you want to try to do an on-the-job training opportunity and they're not sure what wage they should be paying, this may be a good place to start that conversation as to what's happening in the market and what would be a fair wage for an on-the-job training opportunity or potentially for an internship. So just some food for thought.
Very good. Carrie Morris had a question. Is there work being conducted in Florida to expand registered apprenticeship opportunities for individuals with disabilities?
That's a great question. And thanks to, again, the leadership of Governor DeSantis, the growth in registered apprenticeships has been unprecedented in our state. And even over the past several years, CareerSource Florida, in partnership with the Florida Department of Education, has dove into examining opportunities for underrepresented populations in apprenticeship programs, knowing that we can do a better job in helping employers to realize this opportunity. I would encourage anyone interested to learn more about the growth of apprenticeships or maybe wanting to get started to visit apprenticeflorida.com. It's a great resource page that provides some basic information and then connections to individuals who can help employers start registered apprenticeship programs. There's also opportunities for folks who maybe are thinking an apprenticeship is a right fit for them. Again, through your local workforce development board, they can help you make the individual aware of apprenticeship opportunities in their area, see if it's a fit, and then see how it may work for the individual. But yeah, the work is ongoing and we can always improve, we can always do more, but we're really proud of the growth of registered apprenticeships in Florida.
And the other piece is thank you to CareerSource Florida. I don't know if Michelle remembers or noted, but they have also helped the local workforce boards to have apprenticeship navigators. And so just as we have disability navigators, we have apprenticeship navigators who really are focused on working with employers to really identify opportunities for apprenticeship, especially in non-traditional areas. So I think a lot of folks, when they think about apprenticeship, they think about the trades. But there are opportunities to really grow, and we've seen several different interesting pilots for apprenticeship come to bear, both in the information technology space and the healthcare space. And so there are a lot of great apprenticeship programs, like Michelle shared, that are definitely a resource. Yes, Vivian, nice. That is the website, Apprenticeship Florida.
That was going to be my question because I missed half of it. Hey, any other questions from our attendees today? Would either of you be able to talk about what you see in job market trends in Florida when you're speaking with the colleagues that are in the business industries? What do they say are the skill gaps that are happening with employees?
So what we hear most is that there's so many names for them: soft skills, employability skills, durable skills, resilient skills. They have so many names, but that's because those are the skills that are most growth oriented and most transferable for a person who's looking to advance their career and find their path to prosperity. Things like problem solving, listening, reliability, leadership continue to be most in demand by Florida employers. There are, of course, technical skills that are essential along with those employability skills, but the great foundation that employability skills lays in an individual allows them to translate their abilities to lots of different industries. I think CareerSource Central Florida has done a fantastic job working through disruptions in our economy that play a role in our service and hospitality industry. And Central Florida, of course, a hotbed for that industry, but also growing in the areas of artificial intelligence and technology and aviation aerospace. So they need skills of all running the entire gamut there, but continuing to focus on the employability skills means those people can be successful in any industry. It also leads to what could be the best place to learn those skills, which I like to say that your first job is where you start to learn how to show up, how to listen, how to respect lines of authority. And those are the skills that you will use throughout your entire career. So I think laying that foundation early through work-based learning, through paid work experience, through internship programs can always present unique opportunities for those individuals. But I love Nilda's perspective on this one too.
I think that just as the question was asked, that was the first thing that came to mind as we talk with employers of all industries. I think the thing we hear the most is, those foundational skills. And so through the network of all of our network partners provide a variety of workshops through the career centers that could be leveraged. I think, like Michelle said, internships are a great way to learn some of those skills. And I think one of the other things that I would also love to hear is, as we're asking questions and sharing this great information, is from your perspective, what are some areas that you see with those that you serve that maybe could be an area where that it's a need that we should be aware of to think about as well. But definitely the foundational skills. I'll also share that all of the networks have programming for young adults as young as 16. So we have our youth and young adult programs that start around 16 years old. We have veteran programs. We have individuals with disabilities. We have programs for individuals who are currently receiving assistance, public assistance, with the goal of really supporting their learning and supporting their growth, and hoping that they move forward to careers that are going to be fulfilling, but ultimately also have great career pathways so that they can continue to grow and evolve in those careers.
That's great. How would the programs that we have, the Florida Postsecondary Comprehensive Transition Programs, our students are over the age of 18 and they're in college. How would they, I know that they could go to the website, but what are some strategies that they can use to work with businesses to develop internships and combine that with assistance from you guys, from CareerSource?
I think what a local workforce development board could do is to help man that connection between those internship opportunities. our local workforce development boards are fantastic at engaging our business community. And we have individuals who are focused on doing that every day and understanding what their needs are, and be mindful where internship opportunities may be beneficial to both the employer and there is a ripe talent pool to fulfill those internship programs. So I think that's one of the wonderful things about the services available through the CareerSource Florida network is we could help broker those relationships and let you know where internships are available as they are going out and working with employers to identify those opportunities every day.
Great. Okay, Joanne had a question. Do you publish a weekly or monthly local list of available employment that the programs could use to assist students in finding employment?
That's going to
Yeah.
vary depending on where you are. I know several workforce boards do like the top 10 hot jobs looking to really bring in people, but it's going to be different everywhere. I think the best way to know what's in demand in your area is by forming that relationship and connection with your local workforce development board and staying in touch about those opportunities. But Nilda, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I was going to say the same, is that it would vary by board. We, as an example, don't really do hot jobs, but when you come to our websites, we have a lot of direct hiring events. So we do a lot of direct hire where we have hiring events at all of our centers pretty regularly, where we're really working directly with an employer so that we have that connection and we can really facilitate those interviews, get folks in front of employers and help through that process. I think the other piece with internships that was asked, in not only crafting or identify those potential employers who could host individuals, I think the other thing that the network provides is that structure by which an internship can be done safely, but we also take the responsibility of managing payroll and how people get paid and what does that all look like. So many workforce boards work with a partner to be the employer of record. We make sure that work sites are safe. And so from a technical perspective, all those things that might be worrisome, the network kind of takes care of already. So I think the other piece where it might be a good partnership is that if we have a student or you all have students who are looking for internships, is connecting with your local workforce board, inquiring about the internships that if they offer them, and if so, how could you potentially partner with them? Because if we know that there are students looking for a certain type of internship, we could look at our employer partners and say, oh, we have 3 or 4 employers that would offer that experience. Let's go talk to them to see if they're open to hosting a student or 2. So the more we can coordinate and collaborate on getting all the young people that you're working with in the right space and in front of a great employer and ultimately getting them that experience would be a great thing. And I can tell you from experience, we've actually partnered with UCF in a variety of different departments to get students internships, and it has been a good experience. The students have had great opportunities with really great employers, and ultimately it's helped them with experience on their resumes, and ultimately some of them have gotten hired. So definitely internship opportunities or work-based learning opportunities we find do work.
Talking and unmuted. So we find the research also indicates that students with disabilities who are in paid employment or paid internships while they are going to school, they are more successful at employment after school. So it is the same everywhere. Does anyone else have any questions? And do you see any connections that you can apply of the information that has been provided to us today? So please unmute yourselves and join in the conversation of things that you can do that you've learned today. Oh, I love the silence. Anybody?
Hello. I'm
Hi, Rick.
working with Florida Atlantic University. They have a program, the Academy for Community Inclusion. And this information is really great to make the connection, because part of the curriculum is to get into this process, to have the field experience, to have the internship, and the main goal is to have a job. So I think this is a great opportunity to get that connection and find that route to make them, finally get a job.
You have a great workforce board down there, so make sure you connect with them.
I just start with them, so I start in June. So that's what I'm trying to learn and build those connections, because I mean, you already have the infrastructure, so you already make the wheel going around. So I don't want to reinvent the wheel, because you already did it.
Don't blame you.
No, and one of the things that I found out, I mean, this is the first time that I really going with the job coach in full outside the community, because before was more working in the classroom. So at this level, I'm going out of the community, and I found out that when you go outside the community, and you start talking about this population of people with that, different abilities, or, the first thing is that they get into their mind is somebody sitting down in a wheelchair. So you have to start a process to, open the door and tell them that intellectual disability is not a limitation. It's just a different way to see their capability of doing things. So that is important of what I hear, is that you already make that connection, and the partners that you have in the business, they are already aware. They already know what these people could be able to do. So for them, talking about accommodation is not something that they intimidate them. That, in my experience, has been kind of the way that these people probably they like the way that the program is set, and the idea, the mission of the program. When I start talking to them about the mission of the program that I'm working with, but then when it's go to the point that, okay, could you allow me to bring my students? So they start, having some second thoughts and liability issues, and all around details that sometimes it's difficult for them to make the decision.
So we have two other questions
Okay.
from Christina Whitfield. What collaboration occurs with vocational rehabilitation on your part for students in high school?
Oh, great question. So all of the network partners with our vocational rehabilitation partners we're supposed to. They are a required partner, and so we work with them pretty closely. And for most of the network, reaching out to the vocational rehabilitation to work with the high school students tends to happen probably during their graduation year, more of their senior year, just because I think most of the boards, with their resources and funds to actually support some of these activities, happens right as we transition from graduation, if you look at some of our models. But I think one of the things that here locally in Central Florida, those students who may not be able to transition to vocational rehabilitation due to waiting lists potentially, we're able to provide other programming. So I think, again, it'll vary by workforce board, and I think the best place to start is with our navigators, because every region may have a different waiting list or process or status, but that's one example of how we've worked with VR. And vocational rehabilitation too for students. Well, I think most everyone on the call, Iris, is college students.
Pretty much. There are some high school folks here, but mostly everyone is from a college level.
So one of the other things too is for those who have students who are in high school as well, vocational rehabilitation has a number of providers that do offer subsidized summer employment opportunities for youth with disabilities. So that might be also another resource to connect to on the VR's website.
Okay, one other question came up. This is from our program at Robert Morgan Technical College down in Miami. One of our goals is paid as well as unpaid internships. COVID stalled these opportunities. Where can we search for these?
And I would encourage the connection with your local workforce board. We, of course, have lots of online resources, but your best opportunity is always engaging to know what the opportunities are. That way we can hear what kind of students you have and what might be a good fit for them. So I think nothing beats that person-to-person relationship that can then help students.
Okay. And Neil Rosenthal says, to piggyback on COVID, what are some current challenges that you see with job opportunities for college age students in different industries?
This is kind of a fun one because you're beginning to see different generational expectations of work, where many times flexibility is valued over stability, where perhaps climbing the corporate ladder isn't the American dream, but folks understand that they can pursue their passions and make a fantastic living with more than one employer. So we've also seen a rise in gig work or task-based work, which isn't a new concept, but the speed at which those individuals are connecting with those opportunities has grown. We have seen kind of an ebb and flow of remote work. And as we return to a new, more modernized, technologically enabled workplace, lots of job seekers and college age students would love to have remote work opportunities. But now we're beginning to see employers saying that's not what's best for our productivity and our building our organizational culture. So we are still working to understand all of the full disruptions in a post-pandemic world that have had an impact on work. But I think the best thing that we can all do is understand that what work means and what it can mean. We just have to kind of broaden our perspective a bit, open our minds to different ways of work and different opportunities for them.
I have one question about the Social Security benefits. It's in the centers, it's any way for somebody to, maybe give us the guidance about how they can be affected for those individuals who receive Social Security benefits, because sometimes I receive that information for the parents, their concerns that if their sons, daughters start working, how could be the impact, and they will lose their benefits. So that is a different other universe to approach. And so it's any way to get some information. Do you provide that information?
So interesting with Social Security, they do have a program that supplements the Ticket to Work program, and it's what we call Community Work Incentive Coordinators. With any system, we love our acronyms. They're called CWICs, but that's what they are, Community Work Incentive Coordinators. And they actually have agreements with a number of nonprofits where you can actually access a coordinator who could actually sit with the beneficiary and their families to really understand the impact of going to work. And when we've worked with families, most of the time, what I mentioned before is that through that process, they're really able to see that if they were able to go to work, even if it's for 20 hours a week and earn X, and although their benefit may be decreased, at the end of the day, the work and the benefit actually helps them to earn more. And so that's completely different than what most families think, where if I go to work, I will lose my benefits entirely. But that's definitely a great benefit of Ticket to Work. The other misnomer in Ticket to Work is that if I do go to work, I will lose all of my medical benefits, but you don't. And so through the community work incentive coordinators and through the nonprofits that offer the work incentives planning assistance, those are WIPAs. Talk again, Ticket to TTW, Ticket to Work, you got WIPAs and so we see WICs and all this good stuff. But the link I put in the chat will take you to the Ticket to Work website where it talks about work incentive planning assistance. And in there you can get some more information, and you should be able to find, if you Google, CWICs in Florida, you'll get a list of all your nonprofits. So for us in Central Florida, it's the Brevard. We have a nonprofit in Brevard that we work with, and they can schedule appointments, I think virtually or in person, and do the planning phase of it to really help with that information.
Okay.
Milda, that's great. And Hector also, as well as other colleagues, we have a partnership with Able Trust, and they have really shared information about how they can help allay some of those concerns that families have about earnings and Social Security. So I think that will be a great resource for you also to take a look at. I'll post that link in here, Able Trust. But they are a partner who have been trying to put the word out about work savings, and particularly related to individuals with disabilities. So I think that'll be a major resource, Hector, and or any other colleague. If you have questions about it and we need to reconnect you with Able Trust, we will do that. But I will put the link in the chat for you.
Thank you.
We've had some great questions today. Michelle and Milda, thank you so much for providing a wealth of information for everyone. It's just been very beneficial to get the employment piece going and thinking about. We have put into the chat a link to the evaluation, and you should be able to. We would love your input, and if you have any ideas or suggestions for future webinars, please put those in there too in the comments. Additionally, I just want to remind everyone that we do have our December webinar coming up on the first Tuesday of December at 3 o'clock. And during this webinar, it will be APD and Florida Developmental Disability Council talking about the services that they provide, particularly to students that are in the Florida Postsecondary Comprehensive Transition Programs. And we appreciate you coming today. And we will be sharing with you later on a copy of the recording, as well as the handouts and the links that have been shared today in this webinar. So thank you for attending. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Nilda.
Thank you.